This story is titled, My Girlfriend Said, What If You're Not the Father of Our Son? Then she laughed and said she was just kidding. When I asked for a DNA test, she gave me an ultimatum. Either drop it or she'll leave. But I need to know the truth. All right, Reddit, this is going to be a long one, so buckle up. Never thought I'd be posting here, but I literally have no one else to talk to about this without being judged. Been with my girlfriend Sophie, 26 female, for about 2 years now. I'm Ethan, 28 male, just your average dude working as a sales rep for a medical supply company. Nothing special, but it pays the bills, you know. We met at my buddy Mark's housewarming party. She walked in wearing this red dress, and man, I was done for legit couldn't even form sentences properly. Somehow managed to get her number and started dating like a week later. We moved way too damn fast. Moved in together after only 5 months because her lease ended, and she was like, it just makes sense financially, and my dumbass was like, hell yeah, it does. Got her pregnant 4 months after that when protection broke and the morning after pill didn't work. Classic, right? But honestly, after the initial shock wore off, I was actually kind of pumped about becoming a dad. Always wanted kids, just maybe not this soon. Sophie had a really rough pregnancy. Threw up like crazy the first few months, not just morning sickness, but like all-day sickness. Then came these mood swings that were next level, like crying because the pizza place forgot her garlic dip 1 minute, then laughing hysterically at cat videos the next. I tried to be understanding because, hormones and growing a human and all that, but it wasn't just the mood swings. She was acting a bit off during her pregnancy. Like this one time, around month 3 of the pregnancy, I picked up her phone to check the time while mine was charging. She literally jumped off the couch and snatched it out of my hand so fast, she almost dropped it. Got all weird, saying she had private work stuff on it that patients wouldn't want others seeing. She's a receptionist at a dental office, like, what super secret teeth records you hiding? But I let it go. Then there was that weird phase in the 2nd trimester where she kept talking about this coworker Nathan. Nathan said this, and Nathan thinks that, and Nathan is so funny. Then, suddenly, after she got pregnant, she went complete radio silence about Nathan, like his name was banned or something. When I asked about him once, like, hey, whatever happened to that Nathan guy you were always talking about? She got all defensive. Why are you so obsessed with my coworkers? That's weird, Ethan. Never mention dude again. Super sus, looking back. The doctor appointments were another thing I should have paid attention to. First few months, she wanted me at every single one taking off work, rescheduling my stuff, the whole deal. Then around month 5, suddenly she's like, you don't need to take time off work for these routine checkups. It's just boring weight and blood pressure stuff. When I insisted on coming to one because I wanted to see the ultrasound, she rescheduled it twice, said the doctor had emergencies. There was also this weird thing with her mom, Margaret. Margaret and I always got along great, but during the pregnancy, she started giving me these looks like sad puppy eyes or something. One time, she hugged me way too long after Sunday dinner and said, "You're a good man, Ethan," in this weird voice. At the time, I thought she was just emotional about becoming a grandma, but stupid me, I brushed all of this off. Pregnancy hormones, I told myself. She's growing a human, cut her some slack. You're just being paranoid. I made excuses for everything. Our son Liam was born 3 months ago. Came 2 weeks early, according to Sophie, but the nurses kept saying what a healthy size he was for being premature 7lb 8 Oz. I didn't think much of it at the time, too busy being amazed that I was actually someone's dad now. They even let me cut the cord and everything. I cried like a baby myself, TBH. It was the best day of my life. First few weeks were rough with the no sleep and constant diaper changes, but we got through it. Sophie's mom came to stay with us for a week to help out, which was honestly a lifesaver. She cooked, cleaned, even took night shifts with Liam so we could get a few hours of uninterrupted sleep. Super grateful for that. But there was something off, like Margaret kept watching me when I held Liam. the same weird, sad look, like I was some kind of charity case. I figured maybe she was just emotional new grandma, first grandkid, all that. One night, I was passing by the kitchen to grab a drink and heard her say to Sophie, "You need to tell him." Her voice was low, serious. Before I could step in, they both went silent. I walked in like nothing happened, and Sophie plastered on this big fake smile while Margaret suddenly got way too focused on stirring whatever was on the stove. I didn't think much of it at the time. I figured Margaret was just telling Sophie to be more open about how exhausted she was. She'd been pushing the whole "you need to communicate your needs" thing ever since Liam was born. So later that night, I casually brought it up just to check. "What did your mom mean earlier when she said you need to tell me something?" Sophie barely looked up from her phone. "Oh, that? She just thinks I need to tell you how overwhelming this all is for me. You know, new mom struggles, sleep deprivation, the usual." That made sense. "I mean, you can talk to me about that stuff. You know that, right?" She sighed. "Yeah, I know. She just worries too much." I let it go. In my head, it was just Margaret being Margaret, overly involved, overly emotional, always trying to give Sophie advice she didn't ask for. But I tried to be as supportive as I could. Liam's a cute kid, got these big blue eyes that everyone says will probably change color eventually. Sophie's eyes are brown, and mine are green, but apparently that's normal genetic stuff. When my mom visited and said Liam doesn't really look like me or anyone in our family, Sophie practically dragged my mom outside for a private chat, came back in all fake smiles, but I could tell she was pissed. I did notice Liam doesn't really have any of my features, not my nose, not my chin, nothing. But lots of babies just look like potatoes at first, right? So yeah, that's where things were at 3 months and me playing happy dad, Sophie being weird about her phone and getting all defensive anytime someone mentioned who Liam looks like. But everything changed last Sunday at dinner with Sophie's parents. We do this thing where we go over there every other weekend. Margaret makes lasagna or pot roast. Richard, Sophie's dad, talks about his fishing trips. And we all pretend we're the perfect little family. Usually boring as hell, but whatever, free food. This particular Sunday started normal enough. We show up around 5, Sophie carrying Liam in his car seat. Margaret immediately takes him while making those weird baby noises adults do. Richard gives me a soda, and we head to the living room while the women do kitchen stuff. Yeah, I know how that sounds, but that's just how they roll. I've offered to help cook before, and Margaret acts like I suggested burning the house down. Richard's watching some trashy TV show, one of those Maury-type deals where they do the dramatic paternity test reveals, where the dude is either crying or doing backflips, depending on if he's the dad or not. I'm half paying attention, scrolling through my fantasy football lineup on my phone. Sophie comes in from the kitchen with Liam, plops down next to me on the couch. On TV, there was some guy literally jumping on furniture, screaming, "I told y'all I ain't the daddy," while the mom bursts into tears. Classic trash TV. I glance at Sophie, expecting an eye roll or some snarky comment about how ridiculous this show is, but nope. She's laughing, like really laughing, a little too much. It starts off normal, but then it just keeps going louder, high-pitched, almost forced. She's clutching Liam like she's afraid he's going to float away, her face turning red. "Damn," I say, raising an eyebrow. "Didn't know this was your kind of humor." She waves a hand, still giggling. "It's just God, these people," she gasps between laughs. It's so dramatic, like, "Can you imagine?" And then, completely out of nowhere, she blurts out, "What if you're not Liam's dad?" Then she laughs again, but this time, it's different. It's not the belly laugh from before. It's weird, high-pitched, almost robotic, like she's forcing it out, trying to cover up the fact that she just said something really, really dumb. The room goes dead silent. Richard mutes the TV mid-paternity test reveal. Margaret, who's in the kitchen stirring a pot of sauce, drops a spoon so hard it clatters against the floor. I just stare at Sophie. My brain stalls like, what the actual hell did she just say? She's still holding Liam, but she suddenly looks like she wants to disappear. Her eyes dart around the room like she's trying to gauge how bad she just messed up. Then, in a voice way too eager, she quickly adds, "I'm totally kidding. Look at his chin dimple, that's all you." Her fake smile is so forced it might as well be drawn on with a Sharpie. Except, I don't have a chin dimple. Never had one. But you know who does? Sophie's brother. Richard cleared his throat and cranked the TV volume back up way too loud. Margaret called from the kitchen that dinner was ready, even though I could see from where I was sitting that she was still stirring the pasta. The rest of dinner was awkward as hell. Richard kept talking about fishing lures way too enthusiastically. Margaret barely said 2 words, just kept giving Sophie these shut the hell up looks whenever she tried to start a conversation. Sophie was doing this nervous thing where she talks too much and too fast about nothing important. I just focused on eating, holding Liam when he got fussy. On the drive home, I tried bringing it up. That was a strange joke at your parents' house. She got super defensive right away. Oh my God, can't you take a joke? It was just because of that stupid show your dad was watching. Why are you being so serious about this? It just seemed like a weird thing to joke about. And you said he has my chin dimple, but I don't have one. Jesus, Ethan, it's just a stupid dimple. He has your eyes. He definitely doesn't have my eyes, either mine are green, Sophie's are brown, Liam's are bright blue. I took high school biology. I know that's not how it's supposed to work, but I didn't say that part out loud. I'm not trying to start a fight, I said. It just caught me off guard. Well, stop making such a big deal about it. God, you're being paranoid. Is this because your ex cheated on you? Are you projecting that onto me now? Low blow. My ex from college did cheat, and Sophie knows that's a sore spot. But bringing it up felt like she was trying to make me the bad guy for questioning her weird-ass joke. We drove the rest of the way in silence. I kept replaying the moment in my head the way she said it, the panic when no one laughed, the way her parents reacted, not confused but like tense, like they knew something I don't. That's why it made me look into things closer. Although it was just a joke, that night while Sophie was in the shower, I found myself staring at Liam in his crib, really looking at him for maybe the first time, trying to find myself in his face. His hair is darkening to a color closer to Sophie's. His nose is tiny and turned up like hers, mine's a big old schnoz, thanks to my dad's Italian genes. His eyes are nothing like either of ours. Could be normal, right? Genetics are weird, not every kid is a carbon copy of their parents. But combined with that comment, I couldn't stop the thoughts from spinning in my head. The next few days, I tried to observe her closer to see if there were any signs, and honestly, nothing felt different. Sophie was the same as she'd always been, busy with Liam, exhausted but still joking around with me like usual. If anything, she seemed more affectionate, always leaning against me on the couch, kissing my forehead when she passed by, little things like that. The comment at dinner was still nagging at me though, but she didn't act weird afterward, no nervous energy. No avoiding me. If I brought up Liam, she was just as doting as always. One thing did stand out, though, the gym. She started back up a few weeks after Liam was born, which I didn't think much of. She'd been really into fitness before the pregnancy, always talking about how she couldn't wait to get back into her routine. Now she was going 3 times a week, always at the same time, never missing a session. I joked one night, "You're more committed than I am. Maybe I should start tagging along." She barely looked up from folding Liam's onesies. "Babe, it's literally the only thing I do that's just for me. Can you please let me have this?" It wasn't even said in a defensive way. More like she was exhausted and begging me not to take this one thing away from her. I backed off, told her I was just joking. I started to think, maybe I am overreacting. But then, about a week after the dinner incident, I overheard her on the phone with her sister. I was in the living room with Liam while she was in the bedroom, door halfway closed. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but her voice was loud. I don't know what the hell I was thinking, sis, she groaned. It just came out before I could stop it. She paused, then, laughing, I know. It was so stupid. You should have seen his face, though. And my parents, oh my God, you could hear a pin drop, more laughing. I felt my stomach tighten. Her sister must have asked if she cleared it up because Sophie sighed. Yeah, I told him it was a joke. I mean, obviously it's not like I'd actually… She cut herself off. Anyway, yeah, he seemed fine after. I should have walked in. I should have asked right then why the hell she even felt the need to clarify that. But instead, I just sat there, bouncing Liam on my knee, pretending I didn't just hear something that made my chest feel tight. But I think she noticed how I'm being too aware lately because she was acting weird about me holding Liam lately. Before all this, she was happy to let me take him so she could nap or shower. Now she's constantly hovering, taking him from me, saying he needs his mommy whenever he makes the slightest fuss. And when my mom visited last week and innocently commented that Liam doesn't look much like our side of the family yet, Sophie nearly had a meltdown in the car afterward, called my mom judgmental and said she was trying to cause problems. My mom is the sweetest person ever, definitely wasn't trying to start anything. I kept trying to squash my suspicions, told myself I was being paranoid, but that stupid comment at her parents' house had planted a seed in my brain, and it was growing roots by the day. I started Googling stuff like how to tell if baby is yours and when do babies start to look like dad late at night when Sophie was asleep. Read that babies often look more like their dads early on as some evolutionary thing to make sure dads stick around. But Liam? Nothing about him, screams Ethan Jr. The suspicions kept growing, and I started seeing Liam as a random kid that's not mine. I noticed myself going too far, but I didn't know what to do about it. I needed evidence. The breaking point came 3 nights ago. We were arguing about whose turn it was to wash the bottles. I'd been working overtime all week and was dead tired. Sophie was complaining that she'd done them 3 nights in a row, which wasn't even true, it was twice, but whatever. Mid-argument, she pulled the ultimate mom card. I pushed out your son. The least you could do is wash his bottles without bitching about it. Something in me just snapped. Before my brain could stop my mouth, I said, Is he actually my son, though? Because I'm starting to wonder. Holy hell, the look on her face, I've never seen someone go from angry to ghost white. Terrified that fast in my life. She literally froze for like 3 full seconds, just staring at me with her mouth open. Then she exploded, I'm talking nuclear-level meltdown. How dare you? I carried him for 9 months. I've been up every night with him while you sleep through his crying, and you have the nerve to question if he's yours? What kind of monster does that? She was screaming so loud I was worried the neighbors would call the cops. Liam started crying in his crib from all the noise, but I didn't back down this time. If there's nothing to hide, let's just do a DNA test and put my stupid fears to rest. Should be no big deal if he's mine, right? That's when she completely lost it, grabbed a vase off the coffee table and threw it against the wall. Glass shattered everywhere. Then she started sobbing, like full body heaving sobs. I'm not subjecting my son to a test because you're insecure. If you don't trust me, what do we even have? How can we be a family if you think I'm a liar and a cheater? She stormed into the bedroom, and I went to check on Liam to make sure he was okay with all the yelling. When I came back out, Sophie was shoving clothes into a duffel bag. What are you doing? I asked. I'm not staying here with someone who thinks I'm a… She didn't finish, still crying. I'm taking Liam to my parents' house until you get your head straight. I tried to calm things down. Sophie, come on, we need to talk about this like adults. There's nothing to talk about. You either trust me and drop this, or you don't. It's that simple. She packed up Liam's diaper bag, grabbed him from his crib, and was out the door before I could even process what was happening. Sent me a text 20 minutes later saying she'd made it to her parents' place safely, like I gave a damn about her at that point. I just wanted to know Liam was okay. I didn't know what to think after she left. The weight of it all hit me at once. What if I was wrong? What if I'd just blown up my entire family over paranoia? But at the same time, what if I was right? And if I was, then what the hell had the past year of my life even been? She stayed at her parents' for 3 full days. Her mom called me on day 2 to say I should be ashamed of myself for accusing Sophie of such a terrible thing. I asked Margaret point blank if she knew for sure Liam was mine, and she hung up on me. That told me everything I needed to know. Sophie came back on Friday, walked in all calm like nothing had happened, said she'd been thinking about things and could understand why I might have doubts given my past with cheating exes. She gave me an ultimatum: drop this paternity question completely, and we can work on rebuilding our trust, or we're done. I won't raise my son with someone who doesn't trust me. Notice how she said my son and not our son? Yeah, I caught that too. I decided to play along just to know the truth, so I pretended to agree, told her. I was sorry for overreacting, that I loved her and Liam and wanted us to be a family. She seemed to buy it, but things were still tense. All weekend, lots of fake smiles and forced conversations. But in my head, I knew what I had to do. This wasn't going away, that comment at her parents' house. Her extreme reaction to me asking for a test I needed to know the truth. So on Monday, I ordered one of those at-home DNA paternity test kits online, paid extra for next-day delivery. It showed up Tuesday while Sophie was at work. I hid the box in my gym bag in the trunk of my car. I tried to act normal for the next few days, pretended everything was fine, helped with Liam, did the dishes without being asked, even brought Sophie flowers one night to really sell the I'm over it act. Inside, though, I was a mess, barely sleeping, checking her phone whenever she left it around, which was almost never. Even followed her to the gym one day but didn't find anything off. On Thursday, I finally got my chance. Sophie said she was going to take a long shower to relax. Liam was napping in his crib, perfect timing. I grabbed the test kit from my car, read the instructions like 5 times to make sure I didn't mess it up. You're supposed to swab the inside of the kid's cheek, then do your own, seal them up separately, and mail them off. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely open the package. I crept into Liam's room, staring at this little dude who might not be mine. He was out cold, doing that twitchy dream thing babies do. For a second, I almost backed out. What if I'm wrong and just destroying my relationship over nothing? But then I remembered Sophie's face when I asked for a test, not confused or hurt, scared. That's not how innocent people react. I gently swabbed the inside of Liam's cheek, trying not to wake him up. He stirred a little but didn't wake up. Sealed that swab in its container, then did my own cheek. Sealed it up, packed everything back in the envelope with my credit card info. The shower turned off right as I was finishing. I shoved the envelope in my pocket and barely made it back to the living room before Sophie came out in her bathrobe. She asked what I was doing, and I said I was just checking on Liam. I mailed the test on my lunch break the next day, paid $200 for rush processing. They said results would come in 2 to 3 business days. Thought I was in the clear until Saturday morning. Sophie was doing laundry. Yeah, I know, I should have done it myself. Rookie mistake. And found the DNA lab receipt in my jacket pocket. I'd completely forgotten it was in there. She stormed into the living room where I was feeding Liam, gripping a crumpled receipt in her hand like it was evidence in a courtroom. Her face was red, eyes wild. "What the hell is this?" she spat, shoving the paper toward me. I barely glanced at it. I already knew. Liam started fussing in my arms, squirming like he could feel the tension in the room. I took a deep breath and met her eyes. "It's exactly what it looks like," she yelled. "You went behind my back after you promised me you were done with this? When did you even swab him? While I was in the shower? Are you freaking kidding me?" She was screaming now that Liam let out a sharp wail, and I instinctively pulled him closer, rubbing his back. She was too worked up to be holding him. "If you've got nothing to hide, why are you so afraid of the results?" My voice was steady. I wasn't about to match her level of hysteria, not in front of Liam. Sophie's whole body trembled as she sucked in these sharp, uneven breaths. Then she broke full on ugly crying. "Even if he is yours, you've ruined us," she choked out between sobs. "How can I ever trust you again?" You went behind my back. You took my baby's DNA without asking me. I walked over, gently setting Liam in his swing. I needed my hands free for this conversation. I won't apologize for needing to know the truth. My voice was firmer now. But I am sorry I had to do it this way. You left me no choice, Sophie. This doubt has been eating me alive. Her sobs hitched, and she wiped at her face angrily. Why couldn't you just trust me? I laughed, a bitter, humorless laugh. Are you serious? After everything? You make that weird-ass comment at your parents' house, then freak out anytime someone mentions who Liam looks like. I try to talk about it, and you shut me down. I bring up the timeline, and you get defensive. What was I supposed to think? She went quiet, her lips pressing together into a tight line. When do the results come in? Her voice was small now. Monday or Tuesday. A slow nod. She stared at me for a long moment, then tilted her head. And if they show he's yours, what then? I didn't even hesitate. Then I spend however long it takes making this up to you, rebuilding our trust, proving I love you and Liam. And I meant it, I really did. But then her expression changed, darkened. And if they show what you're thinking, that he's not yours? That caught me off guard a bit. I hadn't let myself fully think that far. I don't know, Sophie. She inhaled sharply, then turned on her heel. She scooped Liam up from the swing and held him against her like a shield. I'm taking him to my parents for the rest of the weekend. I didn't stop her, just nodded. Probably for the best, I muttered. I needed the space, because if those results came back how I suspected they would, I had no idea what I was going to do. She packed a bag and left within 30 minutes. I spent the weekend alone in our apartment, and it felt like my whole world was balanced on the edge of a cliff, about to go over. The email with the test results came in Monday morning while I was at work. I took my lunch break early and went to sit in my car to open it. It was one of those moments where time slows down, you know. I legit sat there staring at the unopened email for like 10 minutes before I had the balls to click it. The results were right there at the top in big, bold letters. Probability of paternity, 0%. I threw up right there in the parking lot. It felt like someone had ripped my heart out through my throat. All those late nights, all those diapers, all those times I told him I loved him all based on a lie. I called my boss and told him I had a family emergency, drove home in a daze, almost ran a red light because I couldn't focus, just kept seeing those words, 0% probability. Sophie had texted that she was coming home after work to talk about whatever the results said. I texted back just 2 words, they're in. She must have left work early because she showed up at the apartment less than an hour later with Liam. She took one look at my face and knew. Ethan, please, let me explain. I just held up my phone with the results. 0%. Sophie, 0. She broke down immediately, put Liam in his swing, and collapsed on the couch, sobbing between hiccups and tears. She finally told me the truth. Apparently, last year, after we had that big fight about me going to Mark's bachelor party in Vegas, she got even by going out with her work friends, met up with Nathan, her coworker, at some bar. They got wasted and went back to his place. According to her, it was just once. I took Plan B the next morning, I swear, but it didn't work. By the time I realized I was pregnant, we were so happy together. I convinced myself it had to be yours, the timing was so close. You let me believe he was mine for a year, I said. You watched me paint his nursery. You let me cut the cord at the hospital, Sophie. Who does that? She kept reaching for me, but I backed away. I couldn't stand the thought of her touching me. Nathan doesn't want kids. He made that clear from the beginning. But you're already such a good dad to Liam. He loves you. We can work through this, have more kids, our kids. Stop. Just stop. I grabbed my keys and phone. I'm staying at Mark's tonight. When I come back tomorrow, I want you gone. Ethan, please, we can fix this. She was hysterical now. I didn't say anything, just walked out while she was still crying and begging me to stay. Blocked her number as soon as I got in the car, drove to Mark's place, and told him everything. That night was rough. I kept scrolling through pictures of Liam on my phone, trying to see if there was any part of me in him at all. There wasn't just Sophie and Nathan. I took the next day off work, couldn't face people yet. Around noon, I unblocked Sophie's number just to see if she'd left the apartment. Had 47 texts waiting, mostly variations of please come home and we can work this out, and Liam needs you. I replied with one text. Are you out of the apartment? She said yes. She was at her parents'. I went back to our place, my place, technically, since I'm the only one on the lease. Walking in was surreal. She'd taken most of Liam's clothes and toys, but his crib was still there, his baby swing, the changing table I'd put together while she was 8 months pregnant. All I could think about was, how the hell did this become my life? I spent that night making lists, practical stuff I needed to do, find a lawyer, figure out if I'm legally responsible since my name is on the birth certificate, decide if I should break the lease or kick her out permanently. And just like that, I found myself in a legal nightmare. Since my name is on Liam's birth certificate, I'm legally his father in the eyes of the court. Doesn't matter that the DNA test says otherwise. In this state, if you sign the birth certificate, you're accepting responsibility as the father, period. The lawyer explained that I need to file a petition to disestablish paternity as soon as possible. There's a limited time window to challenge paternity after discovering you're not the biological father, and it varies by state. In my state, it's 1 year. If I wait too long, I could be on the hook for child support for the next 18 years for a kid that isn't mine. Imagine 18 years. But here's where it gets even more complicated. Just filing the petition doesn't guarantee. The court will remove me from the birth certificate. The judge has to consider the best interests of the child. So even though Liam isn't biologically mine, if the court decides I've established a father-son relationship with him, they could still make me legally responsible. When the lawyer told me this, I nearly lost it right there in his office. How is that fair? I was tricked into believing I was this kid's father. I didn't choose this. He stayed super professional though, said our case is strong because Liam is only 3 months old, so the relationship isn't that established yet. Plus, we have clear DNA evidence I'm not the father, and we know who the potential biological father is, Nathan. The plan was to file the petition to disestablish my paternity and simultaneously file to establish Nathan's paternity. We're going to force that jerk to take a DNA test and take responsibility for his kid. Sophie was served papers on Friday. She showed up at my apartment that night, completely hysterical, wouldn't stop banging on the door and screaming until I threatened to call the cops. The neighbors definitely heard everything. How could you do this to Liam? She kept yelling through the door. He's innocent in all this. Yeah, no kidding, so was I. But I wasn't the one who created this situation. She finally left when I started recording her meltdown on my phone through the door. Crack smart enough to know that wouldn't look good in court, I guess. Her dad called me the next morning. Richard's always been a decent guy, so I took the call. He was calmer than Sophie, but still pretty heated. Son, I understand you're hurt. What Sophie did was wrong, but that baby boy needs a father. I cut him off. He has a father. It's her coworker, and your daughter knew that all along. Long pause. Then, did you ever consider that maybe Sophie made a mistake, but she chose you to be Liam's dad because she knew you'd be good at it? That maybe this was her messed up way of trying to build a family with you? Richard, she lied to me every single day. She watched me build a nursery for a kid she knew probably wasn't mine. How would you feel if someone did that to you? He sighed. I'd feel exactly like you do, but I'm asking you to think about Liam here. I know that little dude didn't do anything wrong, but neither did I. I'm sorry, Richard, but I can't raise another man's child that was born from a lie. I just can't. Sunday, Sophie texted that Nathan is refusing to take the court-ordered paternity test. Says he knows he's not the father and that she's trying to trap him. Ironic, right? What goes around comes around. In the preliminary hearing, Sophie showed up with her own lawyer. I expected her to contest everything, but surprisingly, she didn't. Her lawyer said they're not opposing the petition to disestablish paternity, they're just requesting visitation rights for me if I want them, since Liam knows me as his father. The judge ordered Nathan to appear for a DNA test next Monday. If he doesn't show, there could be a warrant issued for him. The court finally ruled on my case 6 weeks after my last update. My name has officially been removed from Liam's birth certificate. I'm legally not his father anymore. Might sound weird, but when the judge made it official, I felt this weird mix of relief and emptiness at the same time. That dude Nathan finally took that DNA test, which confirmed what we already knew: he's the biological father. Now he's legally responsible for child support. My lawyer says I'm lucky this didn't drag out for years, which apparently happens a lot in these situations. Small victories, I guess. After the court ruling, it got even weirder. Sophie called me crying, saying Liam was sick with an ear infection and Nathan wouldn't help. "You're the only dad he knows," she sobbed. I hung up on her. The next day, she showed up at my apartment with Liam, banging on the door and crying. I didn't answer, watched through the peephole as she eventually gave up and left. She slipped a note under the door that just said, "He'll always be your son in the ways that matter." I burned that in the kitchen sink, had my lawyer send her a cease and desist letter after that. She hasn't contacted me since. It's been hard, not going to lie. For the first month after the court decision, I'd wake up sometimes thinking I heard Liam crying in the other room, would actually get out of bed before remembering there was never really mine to begin with. I ended up taking Mark's advice. Donated literally everything baby related to a women's shelter, the crib, clothes, toys, all of it. Kept absolutely nothing. That was a rough day boxing all that stuff up. Found this daddy's best buddy onesie I'd bought him before he was born, almost kept it, but knew that would just mess me up in the long run. Got a transfer to my company's Austin office. New city, new apartment, new phone number, whole new start. Told only a couple close friends where I was going, complete fresh start. For anyone else going through something similar, get the DNA test right away. If you have any doubts, don't wait, and lawyer up immediately. The legal system isn't designed to be fair to guys in our situation. Also, finding out that someone you loved could lie to your face every day for a year really screws with your head, makes it hard to trust anyone. I'm working on that in therapy too. I don't think I'll post about this again, closing this chapter of my life for good. Moving forward, focusing on myself, my job, my dog, reconnecting with old friends who don't ask about the baby. Thanks, guys, for helping me through the darkest time of my life, for all the advice, support, and just letting me vent. It meant more than you know.